Okay, I think we'll get started. Thanks to everybody for coming today. I really appreciate you being here. I am Marilyn Wilson, and I'm the managing partner for the WAV Group. I probably know many of you, but not all. So for those that I don't, it's great to meet you. So I wanted to tell you about a program that we're launching that we're super excited about called the Customer Experience Index. And this is designed specifically to help all of us continue to improve our MLS operations. So for those that don't know, we've been in the business for, I hate to admit it, but over 20 years now. And we've been doing customer satisfaction surveys for MLSs, associations, technology companies, brokerages for many, many years. And so we've learned a lot about the kinds of things that really can help move the needle. And that's what we really want to share with the industry and with each of you to help you to continue to make your business more strong. And, you know, I don't think this needs to be said anymore. We all know that real estate's insane right now, whether it be because of the pace of transaction activity or the amount of acquisitions and money coming in and coming from different places and changing attitudes. It's a crazy world, and we really need to stay on top of it. And yet, unfortunately, given all the other crazy things that were going on, less than 40% of MLSs have actually measured satisfaction overall, but especially even less during COVID. People were just busy trying to keep the lights on, right? Trying to, you know, expand to the virtual concepts and things like that. So now that I don't know if we're ever coming out of COVID, but at least we seem to have learned how to manage it a bit better. You know, it's time to start thinking about how can we all, you know, really focus on doing absolutely the best thing we can to do for our customers. So, you know, what does customer satisfaction do, and why do we do it? I mean, these are the kind of the key reasons that I always see. Number one, and probably the most important, is we want to create loyal customers, right? We want to understand what they like about what we do, what suggestions they have for improvement, and really get a good read on what that, you know, what that spread looks like. I can tell you that we just did one of these surveys a couple of days ago, just got the results back, and it was super exciting to see that we have a scale of 1 to 10, 66% of the people that answered it gave the company a 10 out of 10, right? So that's a really important thing for all of us to not only remember, but also to be able to promote, right? MLSs really do a good job. But of course, there's those 3 people in the industry that love to say we don't, right? And they complain all the time. And unfortunately, they get more of the media. So you hear people say things like, which I just love, I'm sure you do too, everybody hates their MLS. Like, no, that's actually not true. So one of the goals of this is to not only help each of you at the individual level, but to help us at the industry level to talk about the fact MLSs really do a really solid job. Of course, they can be better, like every organization, but there's lots of ways to celebrate the great work they do. So, and it's important, right, to think about how do we stay relevant, and importantly also to identify and track performance improvements. Use those specific recommendations that you have yourself that we provide to you. And then importantly, be able to take credit for the good work that you do deliver, because so many times all we hear about is those 3 people that are unhappy. And unfortunately, many times the board of directors at your organizations, those are the only 3 they hear from too, right? So this really helps give everyone a quantitative measure on, you know, how strong are we really? So there's 3 components to the Customer Experience Index. I'm going to kind of walk you through each of them. And by the way, if any of you have any questions, just throw them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them as we go or at the end. So the first component of this is, you know, first and foremost, this has got to help you really be able to understand what's going on in your own market. So, you know, we're giving you in-depth measures of brand perceptions, right? When you think about this, this is sort of a once-a-year survey. And it's giving you kind of it's not necessarily based on something that happened recently. It's a general perception, which is really important, right? How much do people think that we care about them? How much do they think we respond to them? How much do they appreciate the service, the training, the technology, all of that stuff, right? It's super important to get sort of a moment in time, if you will, and particularly understanding what are they aware of that we do? What are they engaged with the things that we do? What are the hurdles to them not being engaged with the things that we do? And then importantly, how well are we doing for them? So there's a whole host of questions that address all of those areas. And basically the survey sort of walks all the way around the MLS to all of the different components and all the different departments and helps us get feedback on each of those. There's also a Net Promoter Score included. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this, but this is a pretty well-known, not just real estate, but an industry-wide, people use it as a score to find out. So if you look at the way the 9s and 10s are what they call promoters, right? The 7s and 8s are considered passives, and the 6 to 1s are the ones that may be detractors, that for some reason are not liking everything we're doing. So we're also giving you that score as well, so you can see how that looks. And that's another interesting way. So you're going to have a variety of ways. Then we're also going to provide you, based on the open-end conversations that we're including in this, as well as just feedback on, overall on the questions. WAV Group will give you what I call practical, actionable, and affordable solutions, right? So we're not going to come to you and say, oh, here's something, it'll only cost you $22 million. Like, that's great, Marilyn. What am I going to do with that, right? These are things that we believe are within the realm of the MLS, that are within, the budget of an MLS, and that really are achievable, but importantly are things that we know can move the needle, right? We're not going to just suggest things for the sake of it. It's like, there's things that are going to really make a difference. So when you come around next year to look at this, you will have really made some great progress. And to that point, we're envisioning year over year tracking on this too, right? So we will have, we're going to talk about these KPIs in a minute, but we'll have historical perspective. So let's say that in data quality, you see something and you put together a program 1, 2, and 3, that in 2023, you can say, okay, did our data quality satisfaction score move? And did the programs that we put in place actually make a difference, right? So it gives you historical perspective and longer term perspective, which can also be helpful for your board of directors, right? So someone may come in 2023 or 4 and ask you a question and say, well, I don't think we're doing a good job at whatever. You can go back and now you'll have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of history to say, well, as a matter of fact, that has been a priority for us. Here's the programs we've put in place, and here's how we've been able to improve our performance over time. So it gives you quantitative, measurable continuums, if you will, that you can continue to use because as we know, the leadership can change over relatively frequently. So that's the first piece. It's very much like the work that WAV Group has done for many years. Just really taking a hard look at, what are we doing? What's working? How can we be better? What suggestions are we hearing from our customers? And some of those may be training opportunities. Some of those may be, policy opportunities or rules and regs opportunities. Some of them may be just brand new great ideas that you can go back to them with. And we're also happy to share with you, if you'd like, all of the open-end responses. So if you want to actually go through line by line yourself, you're welcome to do that, as well as identifying those that really, really are not happy, right? If the ones that may give you a 1 to 3 score, right? Who are those people? Letting you know, and then you can choose to do with it as you see fit. If you'd like to call each of them, or at least understand what they're upset about, things like that. So we want this to be about you truly making your customers just love you even more than they already do. So the second piece of it, and this is the piece that I think I'm super excited about that we're adding to the whole concept, is what I'm calling peer-to-peer insights, right? So we've done research for many years with many MLSs, and I can tell you that I look at them across, right? And I can see consistently, MLSs do a really good job. But unfortunately, I never had the way to share that in the aggregate because that was not part of the program. They were all private programs, right? So with this peer-to-peer insight concept, it makes it a lot easier, right? So we're going to be measuring 6 different key performance indicators in customer support, responsiveness, technology, training, data quality, lead gen. And we've even been kicking around whether or not we should add one for communications effectiveness. But these will be in everybody's survey that participates. So they'll be the same score, right? And so then what'll happen is you can compare yourself in the aggregate to others. So we're not going to ever share that, Marilyn Wilson MLS got this score and Michael Nash MLS got that score. That's not the issue, right? The issue is to look at it in the average, right? So as an example here, let's say for responsiveness, the average was 83%. And the MLS and that we're talking about got a 92. Well, wow, they did really better than the average, right? Or conversely, someone got, 76 or something like that. Or you circled around in this area, right? You may have had an 81 or an 84, right? basically you're in the same range as where most people are. So it gives you some perspective. Because right now, if I say, oh, you got an 88, you're like, okay, is that good? Like, well, I don't know. I guess so, right? It doesn't give you any of that comparative. So it's really helpful. And again, think about how we can take this in the aggregate. So I could take this number that all of you contribute to, and I can promote that to say, for those naysayers that love to say MLSs aren't doing a good job, guess what? That's actually not the case. And here's the proof, right? We've got feedback from agents all over the country, brokers all over the country that are telling us that's really not the case. Now, conversely, if there's something we find as an industry we can be better at, well, of course, we can work on that too, right? But it gives us something quantitative that we've never been able to have. We've never had this type of transparency before. So then third, and this is again goes kind of part of number two, is I want you guys to celebrate when you do a great job, because I know many of you do, like most of the time, right? So if for any of the categories where you exceed the average, you'll get a badge. And these badges can be put on your social media pages. They can be put on your website. They can be, you can make pins if you want. I mean, I don't really care what we do with them, right? But the point is to celebrate the fact that we really do things that are very, very strong. And, you know, I was talking to someone yesterday, like, I want all 7. I'm like, good for you. That's what you should go for. That's amazing, right? So again, it's not only do you do the hard work, but you finally get to say, from a third party perspective, not just us talking about ourselves, that we're doing a great job. And because we know that you're all so busy and have so many things to do, we're going to be building for you an actual press release and content that you can, with, you know, localized to your market, that then you can just push go and share in whatever way that you want to. So we know that it's just, there's just way too, we're not trying to add more work, right? We're trying to help you celebrate the great work that you already do. So we'll write that for you. For those that don't know, we own a PR company, so we know how to do that well, something that we have in our skill set. And then again, I'm going to push to get national press coverage as part of WAV Group, and highlight all of you guys that are part of this to let everybody know that you're doing, you know, a phenomenal job, and it's all good. So we have a couple of questions. Okay. Lance says, can you send out these slides after? Yes, of course, Lance, happy to do that for you. And Carol asks, how do you qualify the question so responses are giving feedback on our MLS staff versus the MLS system versus the MLS vendor? That's a very good question, Carol, because sometimes when we ask the question, which MLS do you belong to? People will say Navica. They don't even know they're local. So the way the questions are fielded is we ask them different things, right? We ask them about technology, and we will ask them about, not the vendor per se, but we'll ask them about the technology the vendor delivers, right? We will ask them specifically about how is the staff working on a certain kind of thing. Now, do they sometimes get those things confused in their minds? Yes, we know that they do, right? But to the degree that we can, we're asking them specific enough questions that we're sort of framing it around the staff versus the technology and things, and the service and the training and other things like that. So, I mean, the other thing that's almost impossible to deal with, and we all know this, and if you guys have an answer, let me know. Many people get association versus MLS confused. So again, it's very clear this is going to be about MLS issues only. Does that mean that everyone will still be clearly understanding the difference? You know, that your guess is as good as mine, but we'll do our best to try to make it specifically about the things the MLS side of the association delivers, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So, you know, it's a pretty simple program. I mean, that's really it. There's this annual survey. There's a full written, beautifully graphically designed report that you'll be able to hand to your board of directors or to your MLS committee, whoever that you think is appropriate to have with that. It will have those, not only the full survey results, but the in-depth local recommendations. And we spend a lot of time on those. I personally read pretty much all of the open ends, not only, you know, looking at the survey results, but the open ends as well. Because sometimes open ends will help you not only get specific suggestions, they'll also kind of give you a tenor, right? If you hear, you can almost kind of sense people's angst when you read them, like how upset are they, how happy are they, how progressive or how proactive are they being versus, you know, frustrated because they've tried to get something done and they haven't in the past. So it's really important that we read all of those. And again, I'm welcoming for you guys to do the same thing. Then that again gets combined with the national peer-to-peer perspective. so that you've got some, and this can be fun, right? It's like, look at how great we're doing. We're exceeding the averages in 4 categories, and here's how we're going to exceed in the other 3. It gives you a place to frame not only the activities of the organization, but as you're moving into strategic planning, it can be, a great background tool for that as well. Then again, those badges and the press coverage, that can help you celebrate all this. So it's a pretty simple idea. I will leave it open now if anybody has any questions for me. And I would love if anybody wants to learn more about this or wants to talk about any specific thing that they have. Like, one of the things that any of you that are on the call that are regionals, for example, some people have asked us, would it be possible for us to be able to measure satisfaction at the association level? And that's absolutely possible. Or would we be able to share some of those key performance indicators, with an individual association on how they did relative to our averages? Like, all of that is completely possible if that's something that you like. So we're happy to, and if there's any other specific questions you have about the way you currently do research or don't, and want to ask us how this program can work within the context of things you're already doing, I'm happy to jump on the phone and work through it with you. Okay, we have a question. In order to provide the names of the survey responders, the survey would not be anonymous. Do you think it'll affect the responses? It's a very good question, Matthew. A lot of people ask about that. So here's how, and it's kind of a depends answer. I hate when people do that, but it kind of is, right? So in order for us to send emails to them, right, we have to know who they are. You have to know who they are. It has to be your own customers. And so it's not truly anonymous in that respect. Now, you as the MLS can decide. There's no need for you to have to know who said what about whom, right? You don't have to do that. Now, if you do want to understand more about the folks that may be, really unhappy, or conversely, those that are super happy that you might want to grab for testimonials or things like that, then you do need to know who they are. But I can tell you, we've been doing it this way literally for 20 years, and it really doesn't affect the responses. People forget. And another thing you can do if you want to be even more careful about that is the survey can be branded either from you or from us, right? So, it could say something like, WAV Group's been contracted by XYZ MLS to, so it's clearly not the MLS asking the questions, or it could be the other way where it's XYZ MLS has invited WAV Group Research to help do this, right? So it can be further out if you like, but if you truly don't want to know anything, then you just wouldn't look at any individual responses, and then in fact it is anonymous. But to answer your question, it really does not affect the response rates. At least it hasn't from what we've seen so far. Okay, one other question. Let's see what that is. Okay, so one person's asking about pricing. Happy to get with you individually on that. We'll send you an email. This person actually works with 2 MLSs. Oh, interesting. 2 vendors. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, happy to, for any of you that are interested in learning more about this, just drop me an email at Marilyn@WAV Group and let me know that you'd like us to either call you and talk more specifically or send you a proposal, and we're happy to do that as part of this call. So not a problem. We'll get them out to you right away. Okay, any other questions from anybody on the call right now? And maybe just, I'd love to just get some feedback from you if you just put it in the chat. How many of you think this makes sense to have this not only local in depth, but to have the ability to compare yourself and to get some peer feedback from others? How many like that idea? Let me just throw that in the chat if you like it. Just trying to get a sense if this makes sense. So far the people we've talked to, people seem to appreciate it, but I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Lance says should be an interesting exercise. Yeah, I agree with you, Lance. I think we're all going to learn a lot about what we all do well and what we can all be better at. So I think you're right. I think it'll be interesting to see and to see what kind of differences there are. I can tell you, like I say, from the research we've done for many years, most MLSs come up super strong. David Price says it's a fantastic idea. Love that, David. Yeah, so this is kind of what we're thinking. It's WAV Group loves the MLS world. If you guys don't know me, you'll And if you have, you've read, I mean, I get pretty passionate about these topics. I really believe we play a very, very, very important role. And I say we because I'm actually the administrator of an MLS right now myself. So we play a really important role in helping people sell real estate. It's critical that without the data that gets curated and the support and service and technology that's provided, it's really difficult to sell real estate. Look at, go to other countries and they'll tell you the MLS is magic. So, okay, with that, I don't see any other questions, but again, if you have any further, if you wanted me to give you a call and talk to you more about it or send your proposal, just drop me a line at Marilyn@WAV Group, or if you want to just throw it in the chat right now, happy to grab that from you to save you a step. So either way, I hope everyone's having an amazing year so far. I can't believe it's February already. Didn't it seem like it was Christmas about 10 minutes ago? But it's going to be great. Hopefully I'll be seeing some of you at AEI or CMLS or in RESO in the spring. All right, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And again, any questions, feel free to reach out, Marilyn@wavegroup.com, or just drop it in here and we'll go from there. So everyone have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll be working together on this. Have a great day. Bye.